Okay, so if you are the type of golfer who feels like you get a little bit stuck and you don't necessarily swing through the golf ball with rotation and ease as maybe you see other golfers do, then this video is really going to help you out. Now, first of all, let's talk about some of the basics, because golfers who often struggle to turn through the golf ball are normally getting the setup position wrong. Okay, so what I tend to see with golfers who get the setup position wrong, who struggle to turn, is they end up where the ball position ends up very central in the stance. They have their feet both perpendicular towards your target line, and then they end up looking a bit this way where there's too much tilt. Golfers that tend to make rotation look much easier tend to do a couple of differences. One, they move the ball further forward. Two, they flare the lead foot out much more. And the last one is that they then allow the upper body to feel like it sits a little bit more towards your lead side, so it reduces that amount of tilt. So from this type of position, it's going to be much easier to pick the club up and turn through the golf ball as opposed to obviously the previous one. So that's the first thing that I just want to get in there, because that could make quite a big difference quite early on. Now, let's talk about rotation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this as a bit of a pointer so that you guys can see. Now, when I get set up, I'm going to do this from both perspectives. The idea is, quite simply, is symmetry of movement. Okay, so this line, this stick here, from my perspective, is going to travel pretty much in a straight line. I'm going to show you that from the side of perspective in a moment. But what we can see happens is that my head stays still. I start to turn, so this is staying very downward facing, it's still pointing down towards the ground. But then as I keep my head still, it's still pointing down towards the ground, but obviously it starts to progress to a position where it's more horizontally placed. Okay, so as I keep my head still, so it's not this, it's this. Okay, and then therefore as we come in towards the downswing, like I say, we're looking for symmetry. So as my head stays still, this will start to progressively point back downward. It will keep pointing downward, and then as I keep turning, it'll eventually face back into a horizontal position again. But let me show you that from the side perspective. So I'm going to place a little line here on the ground so that it kind of visually shows you where my pointer is actually aiming. So it's like so, bum 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 bum, bum 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 bum, through like so. Okay, like that. Now, why is that important? Well, it's important for a couple of reasons. One of the reasons is that nowadays, with a lot of instruction, there's a lot about using the ground, and a lot of people are sort of talking about pushing out of the floor. And what I tend to see with most amateur golfers who trying to translate that information is they end up just getting standing up and just getting stuck, and there's a lack of rotation through the ball. So the first thing that I'm essentially trying to say is that from your perspective, it will always feel like your body is pointing downward. But what we're basically trying to say is as you keep turning, that's the thing that's going to make you end up standing upward. Okay, so that's a really important thing, first and foremost, that we need to do. Now, therefore, the thing that's going to make the massive difference is the start to the downswing. So hopefully now we understand that we want it to feel very rotational. And the second thing is that we also know that we need to do something with this left leg. Okay, so as I start coming in towards this downswing position, I know that I need to feel like my chest is pointing downward, and I need to feel like this leg stays flexed and starts to face more towards the target, so we end up in a position very much like so. Now, with students that I work with, when we do these sort of exercises together, either drills that I suggest for them to do, or if I'm doing it on a video call with them, will often give me the same feedback. They'll always say, that feels really downward, right? So they'll go, wow, that feels like I'm really close towards the ground. And that's the thing, because the second thing then that you want to introduce is you want to get the feeling of your hands moving through, and your hands will feel like they are guiding the club more upward. Okay, so if I was to do a swing from the side on perspective here, what you want to feel is as I come in towards this downswing, you want to get the sense that the club is moving to the right of the target, as I'm demonstrating here, as I rotate, which is what's going to bring it around. What most amateurs do is sort of nothing and then pull, and then you get quite stuck. And then what happens with a lot of you is that when you start learning to try and turn, you do the turn, but then because you don't do anything with the arms to change the club, that's why you often find it really difficult. So if you want to go from being very stuck through the golf ball, very sort of flippy, to having a motion which is more rotational, you are going to have to do a few things. One is double check your postural position. 2 is understand that you are going to have to get that feeling of keeping your chest pointing very downward and just keep turning, which is going to give you that sense of being way lower to the ground. And then the third one is that you're going to have to change what you're doing with your arms, and the likelihood is that you're going to have to feel like you're guiding the club more out towards the right, because it's those two feelings of guiding the club out to the right and that rotation which brings the club back around to plane. Try it. It's a perspective video. It should help you out just to make sure that you feel like you're on very much the right wavelength. I'll see you soon.